Welcome to this presentation where I'm going to show you what kind of service we offer if you have a webinar and if you try or if you sell stuff through a webinar but you don't have an actual sales crew in place. And with sales crew, I mean people who actually actively talk with your attendees, buyers, and not buyers. And that's what I mean with webinar closers. I don't talk about a webinar who closes deals. I talk about real persons and real people who actually get in touch with your non-buyers and probably with your buyers to upsell them a congruent product. And that's why webinar closers are in high demand. Let me explain you this in this service presentation. So you have a webinar, right? Because that's why you are here. But as I said, you probably don't have a sales crew in place, or you never thought about to do that. And that's why I like to cover you a few things about our webinar closer service. So I will show you how it works, or actually how we work, what we do, what have we done, and why we came up with this service. And you can actually model that, or you will find something I can offer you at the end of this service presentation, up to you. So why should you watch this? And the reason why is pretty simple, but first let me explain you how the webinar closer was born. I mean, if you don't know me, what we do in our core business is pretty simple. We close deals on the phone. That's our core skill. And as you may imagine, there are so many leads get generated every single day, but most of the people, let's say, just send emails and stuff like that, and nothing beats a 15 or a 30 or a 5-minute phone call with someone or with a real person if it comes to close deals, answer questions, stuff like that. You can imagine if you are opted in somewhere and you actually have one single question. I will cover that also in this presentation, and it's holding you back to buy something just because of this one single question. You can receive emails to the moon and back. Probably the email does not answer your question. That's why we came in the game. We are actually highly trained salespeople with over 20 years experience to close deals on the phone. So actually, companies and let's say product creators came to me and asked me if we can sell at least high-ticket products to people, because almost no one swipe a card to buy a 5,000, 10,000, 20,000, 30,000 or $1,000 product if they are not really sure. And sometimes, as I said, there's just one answer missing to make the decision to actually buy it. So if it comes to webinar, it's pretty hard to cover everything, because if it's a recorded webinar, you cannot just answer any question. So that means you will lose, or you will leave a lot of money on the table. And that's pretty okay. That's where we came in the game, to help you, to support you, to increase the sales by actually solve that problem. So there is this one guy who came to me and he asked, hey, I've got a webinar and it's doing pretty well, but no one buys the $3,000 product at the back end. So maybe you can call up these buyers and sell them the $3,000 product from the back end on the phone. That's how it started. And I thought that, yes, sure, we can do much more than just call your buyers and upsell them a congruent product that will help you much more. And here's a hint. I mean, if you sell a product through a webinar, it must solve a problem or must help the buyer to move from A to B. So the backend product should be something additional if the buyer moved through the first step, so he can move on. Okay, so actually, if you have a webinar, there are just two options from attendees. You have non-buyers and you have buyers. I know you have also people who register but do not attend at all, but I don't want to cover that. I just go for the non-buyers and for the buyers. That's correct, right? So let's have a look at some numbers, and I just throw some fancy numbers to make it easy to calculate. You can for sure use your own numbers and have a look if this will fit for you. I took just normal fancy numbers to make really clear, not to freak completely out and do a whole math university studium here. I just want to go through some easy numbers to have a look. So let's say you have a webinar with 997 products, which is pretty normal in the low section, I guess. And you have 100 attendees, and you have 20 buyers, and you have 80 non-buyers. But these non-buyers actually watched the webinar or dropped out at 75% or whatsoever. Actually, these non-buyers attended the webinar. And you have 20 buyers. That means you have a revenue of $19,000, $90,940, which is pretty awesome, but you leave $79,760 on the table because of the non-buyers. Okay, so let's keep these numbers in mind for a little bit. And now, if you have the 3K upsell option, which means we call the buyers and sell them stuff or try to make sure that this upsell is congruent and fit for them to sell them, which means, and that was the actual deal we had with this guy. That was our job to do that. The first case, so that means we have 10% of buyers, 10 buyers, which means 50% are buying the upsell. That means you have an additional $30,000 in your pocket as revenue, so which means you have $49,940. It doesn't matter. It doesn't change the fact that you leave money on the table, which is almost $20,000 more than what we get right now, just with people who actually attend the webinar, right? Hope that makes sense so far. Now, the fancy thing kicks in, probably. I mean, I love that shit, right? So what about the 80 non-buyers? There's a rule, or there's a saying in sales, which means it doesn't matter how many deals you close, it matters how many deals you don't close. And now let's focus on these 80 non-buyers, right? Why they did not swipe their card? What happened, right? What happened? And there are a lot of things, but the truth is there's just one way to find out why they did not buy it. Actually, there is one way, who's the fastest way. And the way is simple. You have to ask them, right? Just ask them, hey, what happened? What happened? Was it bored or whatever? So imagine if someone will call all these 80 people who actually are interested in your product. That's why they attend, not just register to your webinar. And just ask them in a friendly way about the missing piece, what happened, why they did not buy. What has held them back to buy your stuff? I mean, there must be a reason why, and that's exactly where we kick in. You will be surprised about the answer. Believe me, after 20 years of experience, I know a lot of people are just have one single question that holds them back to buy something. And if you are in this email marketing and whatever retargeting stuff, that's pretty okay. But again, nothing beats if you ask someone in person just a friendly question. I do not talk about this hard closing stuff where we push people into the direction to swipe the card. It must have a fit. It must be really fit for them. So now that's exactly what we do. We know the answers, or we will find out for you. And here are just 3 simple examples. Sometimes the webinar is just too boring. I mean, if the first 5 minutes you just talk about you, blah, 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 sometimes people get bored, so they drop out because they just don't have time for that shit. Something happened, like a baby cried, so they have to left, or the dinner is finished, or the wife has some question if the makeup is right, or whatsoever. Or simple, the question was not answered. These guys probably have one simple question, and that's, believe me or not, that's most of the time the one and only obstacle or hurdle people have if it comes to online, because it's just a one-way communication, and they just have, as I said, one simple question. So think about yourself. If you have one single question, like, is this chair available in brown? Okay, you want to buy a chair, and the only question you have is this chair available in brown, so it will fit in your living room or wherever. So you don't want to wait 2 hours in hope someone answers this question, right? And if it comes to webinar, they don't know what you are telling. So they have to wait, even if they have 2 hours. So it could be a little bit of a problem or a hurdle why they don't buy. So this leads to one action. They leave, okay? Most of them, they leave. And much more worse is if they wait 2 hours and they don't get the question answered. I mean, you do a great job. You cannot cover everything, but that's actually what happened, right? Remember, we talk about $79,760 you are missing out in these examples. Again, draw your own numbers. I guess you know your numbers. I hope you know your numbers. But in this example, that's actually what you miss out. So $79,760 from people who may have one single question or just get distracted somehow. Okay? Keep this in mind. Again, almost $80,000 from people who are interested in your offer. That's why they attended your webinar. So one more example until we recalculate the numbers. If you enter a store to buy a remote control for your television, just an example. I know it's a weird example, but I hope you get the point. You actually managed to find this device, but you are not really sure if this thing really works with your TV because the description does not help you out. And one simple question that will lead you to buy, right? One simple question. Does this device works with television brand XYZ type ABC? That's all you have to know. Now, since you can't spot someone who actually can answer your question, what do? You probably leave without buying this device because you're not sure. That's a normal behavior from people. Why should you do it? It's kind of the secure thing, but that's the way it goes. And that's exactly what happened in webinars, or in this case in your webinar. So now let us be the guy who actively talked to the non-buyers to ask about their concerns and answer their questions. Let's say, and because a real person is showing interest in your attendees, we can close just 50% more. And now let's do the numbers. You see on the left side before webinar closers and after webinar closers. You get the webinar revenue is $90,000 and the upsell revenue, as we calculated, $30,000, which means a total revenue of $49,000 and money on the table is $79,000. Now let's say we close 50% more, which you see non-buyers 80, 50% is 40, that means non-buyers go to 20 and the buyers to 60. So with the webinar revenue, you still have $20,000, the upsell revenue is still $30,000, and because the 50% more we closed, you get almost $40,000 more additional just with what you have on the table, which means the total revenue, it's almost $40,000 more, right? So you immediately increased from almost $50,000 to $90,000 just with what you have on the table most of the time, just by simply giving them the information they need or whatsoever. I mean, there are a lot of more hurdles and obstacles and stuff like that probably these attendees have, but these are real numbers, okay? So I hope that makes sense so far, and you see the power of a phone call if you're trained to actually make phone calls, or much more important, if you have someone who do it because it's their job. When I talk about us, so you can lean back and do your job. I mean, it's not your job to call people, it's your job to do webinars, create products and stuff like that. That's all stuff we can't do. Our core skill is close deals on the phone in this example for you. So plus, don't forget, you have, with that said, 40 more people for your 3K upsell, okay? Which can be an additional $60,000 if we go with 50% conversion rate. And that's just, let's say, a one-shot thing. I don't even talk about the follow-up process we can handle for everything, which will skyrocket your income, actually profit or revenue. I just talk about what we have on the table with one shot, okay? So let's sum this up again. Before webinar closers, after webinar closers. I hope you get that simple construct here. And I mean, this is an additional $40,000 just by talk with people. And again, I really want to I really want to point that out 100 times, right? This is our job. That's what we are good at. Like other people are good at in generating leads, other people are good at in sales copywriting, email marketing, stuff like that. We are good in actually close deals. I mean, marketing is okay. It's probably the thing that leads to us, right? They generate leads for us, but we have to close them. In other words, marketing is really good. Like that's how you get attendees in your webinar. But now, if you cannot sell everything on your webinar, that's pretty okay. And now we put a piece into your sales process, which called the sales force, a sales crew, and their job is to handle everything that you can't. Like we cannot do webinars, right? I mean, yeah, that's how it goes. So combine our strengths and make money for everyone in the game. So I hope you get the point so far. Then I guess these are good news, right? I mean, $40,000 plus, I will take it. But it's getting much more better, you believe it or not. I mean, you have absolutely zero, niente, nada more work as you have right now. You have absolutely nothing, again, zero, niente, nada more work as you have right now. We will take care about anything described above. You can focus on your job, as I said, and we focus on our job. I guess you went already through your own numbers, right? Hopefully you wrote it down, or maybe you have it in your mind. So let's go over it. What if we go with this percentage? How much more money will you make out of what you already have on the table? I mean, again, how much money do you think can be converted from leaving on the table to into your pocket if a trained sales force will handle the described work for you? It's proven, it's tested, we did it. Our sales experience is over 20 years, and the reason again why I came up with this service is because we did that for a client and it worked awesome and very well. So why not make a kind of business out of it and offer the service to you to increase your sales as well? Now, we definitely would love to work with you, increase the value for your attendees and buyers, and for sure to multiply your capital by resources, aka leads, you already have, right? These are not cold leads. You don't have to acquire new leads. You have warm, if not hot leads, okay? Sounds good? Cool. So go ahead and click the button below this video. Fill in the application form, and we will come back to you in the next hours to discuss the greater details and how we can move on. It will be great to work with you, and I'd like to sum this up again. But if you already know enough, click the button below, fill in the application form, and I will take care about you. We'll come back to you in the next 24 hours again. So again, our job is to increase your sales by leads you actually have on the table just by call them and sell them stuff. Now, the thing is, we also can keep in touch on a weekly or on a daily basis, which means I can deliver you the answers from the leads who did not bought stuff, so you can actually implement it into your webinar, which means it will increase your sales through the webinar just by simply answering the most common question you probably forgot or not even think about it. Because let's be honest, in this example, the 80 people who did not buy, or even 40, maybe 20 or 30 have the same question, and if you can answer this, your sales will increase, your profit and your revenue will increase also. And that's a never-ending story. It's a long-term relationship. Probably you fill in leads, you will get attendees, you will get buyers, you will get non-buyers. We can close your non-buyers to the product in the webinar, and we can follow up with the buyers, and probably if you have a congruent product that will help them further, we can also close your high-ticket sales in the back end. Sounds good? Thanks. So go ahead, click the button below, fill in the application form, and we talk to you soon. Thanks so much for watching this, and I can't wait to work with you. Let's skyrocket your revenue plus multiply your capital with what you have on the table already. Thanks. Cheers.